Well, welcome everyone. Monday, June 1st, as hard as that is to believe. And very, very happy that you have joined us today with the resumption of our Mondays at noon program. I would remind you to make sure that you are muted and that we will take questions at the end via chat. So feel free to submit those at any time. And as we normally do, I would like to start with a bit of reflection. As we all know, these are very, very, very turbulent and troubling times. We have many challenges before us as a society. Some of those challenges, like racism, have been with us and ignored for years. And some of the challenges, like COVID-19, are new and really just beginning to impact us as a society. And as most of us on this program, I think we're familiar with the Jesuit educational philosophy and the emphasis that is placed on reflection. And I would certainly want us to take a moment here to do that. But I also think it's important that while you're reflecting, you take a moment and figure out maybe one thing you could do. Maybe one thing a week, maybe one thing a day, maybe a couple things a day if you're ambitious, to help bring about justice and peace in our society. So let's take a moment. We don't want to forget first responders and those on the front lines, but really keeping in mind the challenges before us and how we can perhaps send out those ripples of hope that Bobby Kennedy talked about to end up making a difference in our society. Thank you. So with that, want to welcome a person that many of you know, Dr. Gary Weber. As you know, Gary is a professor of accounting at Gonzaga. He has served the university well. I'll let him tell you for how long. And as you notice from the screen share that Molly Pepper put up, he is officially, as of about 12 hours ago, the former director of our graduate accounting programs and the former coordinator of our accounting programs. And he can talk you through a little bit what that career has entailed and what it's been like. But as I have said a couple of other occasions, one of the great things about Gary's performance over the past years has been he took a program that had a legacy, and he took a program that was known and renowned in many, many ways. And he not only continued it, but he made it better. And so hopefully that's one of the things we will get to today. So Gary, welcome. Thank you for being here. And can you talk a little bit about your background?
You bet. Thanks, Ken. I appreciate it. And thank you for having me today. And thanks for everybody joining us. Yeah, absolutely. I was actually raised in a little town called Lima, Ohio, which has the great distinction of being in the Wall Street Journal a few years ago as having the cheapest housing in the country, which means nobody wants to live there, is really all it means. But I left and got my undergraduate degree in accounting and at Bowling Green State University, and was actually heading to law school. Turned out I took my first tax class and realized I could practice law without ever spending that 3 years and a lot of money. And so really fell in love with tax law at that point, which I know for many people sounds kind of sick, but I really love it and enjoyed it. And so left undergrad and went to work in the Big Four for 4 years, partly in Ohio, but due to the economic conditions at the time, I moved to Arizona, and partway through for greater career flexibility and opportunities. And that was during a period of time where I wanted to, develop my skills in much broader ways. And so I agreed during my public accounting career to give a continuing education talk on a topic called assignment of income, which is kind of a major tax topic. And I gave it in-house to partners, managers, staff, the whole 9 yards. And it was kind of a turning point in my life because as I gave it, it was probably the worst hour of continuing education ever done by anyone. And but coming out of it, what I realized is that I needed to be a better public speaker. I needed to have a better presence if I was going to really have a successful career. So I was looking at things like Toastmasters and different things I could do to speak. And a friend of mine came up to me and said, "Hey, I'm teaching a class at a local community college. Are you interested in taking my place? I've got to stop doing it, and they want me to help find somebody." And so I said, "Sure, I'll do it." I thought, wow, what a great opportunity to have to get in front of a group of people for 3 hours a week. And so I did it. And I came home that first night after doing it actually and said, I think this may be what I want to do the rest of my life. But wasn't quite ready to make that determination. But it was definitely, that's what put this whole academic career on my radar screen. So I continued in public accounting, eventually went to work in industry for a real estate developer, and enjoyed everything I was doing, but found that there was something missing. And I didn't know what it was at the time, but I enjoyed what I was doing, but I wasn't passionate about it. And kept coming, I was still teaching 1 night a week at the community college. And finally, I realized that that's, I actually liked doing what I did 3 hours a week a whole lot better than what I did 50 hours a week. So I applied and was accepted to Arizona State's PhD program, and was really fortunate there to be mentored by a couple of really phenomenal professors, one of whom is actually the dean at Michigan State now. And he was just, he had a huge impact in the way I thought about an academic career, and it helped me with my research. And so when I got to the end of the PhD program, being from the Midwest, I was going to head back to the Midwest, and I was interviewing at schools back there. And a friend of mine on the faculty at Arizona State knew somebody on the faculty here at Gonzaga. Those of you who've been here a while may know Kay Carnes. And so he knew Kay Carnes and said, "Hey, Gonzaga is looking for a tax professor. Are you interested?" And, honestly, I knew nothing about the school other than John Stockton. I'm a huge basketball fan, so I knew John Stockton. So I kind of figured out where it was, and I thought, I'll take a trip up there and see what it's like. I was impressed by Kay and what she had to say. So I came up, and long story short, what made all the difference in the world is that Gonzaga was the only school that sent me out to lunch with students. And I went out to lunch with 3 senior accounting students, and their approach to life and their understanding of the world and their place in it was unlike anything I'd ever seen. I mean, it honestly made me sort of embarrassed about who I probably was when I was 22. And so I finished the interview and said, I think this is where I want to end up. And so in the fall of '95, I was lucky enough to join the faculty at Gonzaga and to really come to a place that is so consistent with my personal values and what I really value in a career. Not only, are we educators, but, we do try to educate the entire person. And, we're given the freedom and opportunity to really interact with our students at a much deeper level other than the subject we're teaching. So it's been, it was a great place for me to land. It's my end of my 25th year here. And so it's really been kind of the perfect marriage for me in terms of the philosophy of the university, the opportunity to interact with really high level students, to have amazing colleagues as faculty members and as staff here in the school and across the university, and to be supported actually by great deans. And so, my career here has just been really different in that 8 years in, I accepted, actually 6 years in, I accepted an administrative role directing the MAC and MBA programs, Master of Accountancy and MBA. Bud Barnes made the offer to me, and I wasn't even tenured yet, which was kind of scary now that I look back, but became MBA and MAC director after 6 years, and then eventually spent 3 years in the academic vice president's office as the associate AVP, and decided that I missed my students a lot. Didn't like not being in front of the classroom, and so came back for a couple of years on the faculty. And then Bud once again asked if I would be interested in being coordinator of accounting programs and director of our MAC program in 2009. And I've held those roles since 2009, so for the last 11 years. So I've only actually been on the faculty full-time for 8 out of my 25 years. So I'm really excited about today, another start to that process and being back on the faculty. And honestly, I feel like I have a new job. I feel like I'm starting a new career. So I'm really excited about the opportunities the next several years provide for me.
Okay. Well, what you're really excited about being back on the faculty is today starts vacation.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. That was not lost on me.
Yeah. So talk a little bit. I want to go back to undergraduate days. Were you one of those students that you knew early on, whether that was high school or freshman year or what have you, that you were going to be an accounting major?
No, I mean, I knew, so what my original goal was is to be an attorney, a business attorney. That's what, I've always loved business. I have thought about opportunities. I wanted to be sort of a business consultant. I didn't really know much about tax, obviously, being that young, but that was kind of my goal, was to be sort of a business advisor. And I felt if you had a business degree and a law degree, you could be of enormous benefit to your clients because you'd have a really broad perspective. And the accounting piece was basically there were two things that really influenced me in that direction. One was my brother was an accounting major at the time at Marquette. And he said, if you're going to go to law school, it's a great way to have a kind of build an analytical skill set. So I thought, okay, I'll take his advice. He's a pretty smart guy. The other piece is that math has always been something that I love. And so anything that had to do with math, anything related to that, I knew I had a good skill set for it. So I put the two things together. And to be honest, I've always told my students I'm not real passionate about accounting itself. The debits and credits and all that stuff, with all due regard and respect to my colleagues, never really got me that excited. It was kind of a means to an end. But that's when I stumbled on my tax class and really developed some passion for that part of accounting. And so that's why, for me, it was truly like an awakening. Wow, I can do this. And then I can do exactly what I always saw myself doing, which is being a business advisor. And but it would make my path a whole lot easier if I just did accounting and stopped there.
Cool. So any memories from early on at Gonzaga that stand out, whether they're in the classroom, in the building, in your work over in administration, anything that you can share, I guess I should say.
Yeah. Wow, good question. I don't really have any highlights, I would say, in terms of a specific event. The highlights for me, there've been a lot of them, but they've been all related to kind of student interactions. This past week, I went in the office and I had some mail, and it was a thank you card from a student who graduated from our MTAX program a little over a year ago. And she's a great young woman working for one of the big four now in the Midwest. And she struggled in my classes a little bit. And I knew she struggled. She came and saw me a lot. We talked a lot about, kind of she didn't do her undergrad at Gonzaga, and so her struggle to sort of transition to the Gonzaga Master of Science in Tax program. And when she left, I knew that she had had a really good experience, but I knew that my classes had been a challenge for her all the way along. And when I opened my mail, it was a wonderful thank you note from her that basically just said, the impact I'd had on her career and her as a professional. So for me, I think those are kind of the high points, is whenever I get an email or note from a student talking about whatever, could be, the technical content of my classes, but could also be just, sort of the idea that I've helped them become a better professional, made them think about the world a little differently. I think for most of us who get into this, we did it to a large extent because we love interactions with students. And when we know we can have that effect on them, to me, that's the high point. So I think, my early memories of Gonzaga, I'll tell you two of them really fast, which are, one was that I would just say that maybe my undergraduates at Arizona State that I was teaching weren't as dedicated as Gonzaga students. And so, missing class was kind of a frequent thing when I was teaching during not for me, but for my students when I was teaching in the undergrad program at ASU. And so some percentage of my students would miss every week. So my first day at Gonzaga, I'm in my office and I'm pretty nervous, because this is now, this is for real. This is the big time. I'm going to be a faculty member and I'm going to my first class. And as I, get ready to go and I'm heading out the door, my phone rings in my office and I'll grab it real quick. So I grabbed it and it was a student and she said, "Hi, this is, so-and-so. And I just wanted you to know that I'm in your 9 o'clock and I won't be in class today because of, I'm sick or whatever." And the immediate thought that ran through my mind was, oh my gosh, if they all call me like this, I'm going to spend a lot of time on the phone. And it turns out that, that's just not Gonzaga students. And probably my second memory, though, that's right along with that is that, the commitment that Gonzaga students expect out of their faculty is pretty significant. It probably took me a year or two to get used to that and understand sort of the Gonzaga way. And fortunately, I had a lot of great mentors in people like Kay Carnes and Eddie Beer and Walt Teets, who were here, and Larry Lewis, who could talk me through all that. But I would say my first couple of years were a real learning experience in that way, because Gonzaga students have high expectations, both of you as a professor and of you, just overall being engaged with them. And so that probably took a little bit of time. With all due regards to my time in the academic vice president's office, I just missed my students and I didn't find administrative work very fulfilling. So that was probably my low point, is my 3 years in the AVP office, even though, hopefully I did some good things and was involved in implementing the phased retirement system that's in place. Overall, I just really missed being on the faculty because this is where my passion is.
Cool. By the way, I forgot to mention this at the beginning. This is being recorded and it will be out on the business school's YouTube channel within a couple of days. So just be mindful of that. So let's, you're on your way out the door, so to speak, as an administrator. Let's give you a little bit of an opportunity to brag. What do you really like about your accomplishments as being in charge of accounting, so to speak, over the last decade or so?
Probably the thing I'm most proud of is that I think during that time period, the last 11 years, we collectively as an accounting faculty have done an amazing job of staying current and of ensuring that our curriculum is cutting edge, that it provides students with the best skill set available as they leave Gonzaga, that they can compete with anybody in any place from any university. I think we've just done an incredible job of being engaged with the profession. We've got a very active advisory board, which we're so appreciative for. They provided us with an amazing amount of input and been very helpful to us. Just even during regular times they visit campus for interviews, we've had great conversations with them about what's coming down the pike in terms of the profession. What should we be thinking about? When you think about that, our entering class of 2020 will graduate, you know, what, in 2024. So we've got to be basically thinking out 4 to 5 years ahead, ensuring that our students have a skill set that's going to be in demand in the mid 2020s. And we have to be thinking about that all the time. So I think that's the thing I'm most proud of. We integrated analytics into the program over the last several years, which is really a key component. We saw the trend in the demand for tax professionals by firms of all sizes. So we launched the Master of Science in Tax program in 2017. So I think we've really tried to stay ahead of the curve. I think that's the number one thing. Probably the second thing is just the growth in the number of employers who come to Gonzaga now. We had a career fair in September of 2019, and 34 employers came to campus to recruit Gonzaga accounting students. And when I came to Gonzaga 25 years ago, it was probably 8. And so, you know, I think again, the university's grown. We've got more of a critical mass. We've got outstanding students who every day increase the value of our brand by how they perform in the workplace. And so, you know, that kind of drives people to Gonzaga to recruit future students. So, you know, when I think about even just the last 5 years, Weyerhaeuser, Costco, Amazon, all started recruiting on our campus. And all because they had experience with Gonzaga students and had such an amazing experience with them, they wanted to make us one of the key schools they recruit at. So that's been a huge part, I think, in our success, and obviously really proud of it. And maybe the last thing would be, I do think over the past 5 to 7 years, we made some really good strategic decisions about our curriculum, and not just staying kind of cutting edge, but in being thoughtful around where our students may have some gaps in their knowledge. And so we've kind of increased the requirements for the accounting major. I think that has had a direct impact on our CPA exam pass rate being so significant, and 7th in the country. You know, I think we've just done a better job of preparing students by giving them a broader based knowledge set. So those are probably the key things, I think, overall.
So build on that a little bit with your thoughts on the future of accounting education as apart from the profession. And I know they overlap a lot, especially given your previous comments, but where's accounting education going?
Highly. So, I mean, you're right. I mean, I think the way you framed that question, you recognize the connection between what we have to be doing and the profession. And so the two for me are just intricately tied together. You know, I think that the profession has to drive what we do. And first of all, I think that, you know, we've got to be really aware and continue to be thoughtful around technology. So we have to recognize the role that it's playing, not only in you know, audit practices, in tax practices, in consulting, and we have to continue to think about ways to enhance our students' skills in that area. You know, I tell my students this at the risk of classifying myself as old, but you know, when I came out of school and sat down at my desk at KPMG for the very first day, there was a 10 key there. There wasn't even a personal computer, a PC. They didn't exist. And so I think we had 2 word processors. That was our computers in the whole office. So, you know, I think about the growth in technology in my career, and now I think about where it's going to go in the next 25 years, and I don't think we're going to recognize the profession. So I think we first of all have to ensure that our students are thinking about that. about thinking about the role of technology and how it is changing things. I think we have to do even more, and I think we just do an incredible job at Gonzaga, both in the school of business and in the core, but of training students to be critical thinkers. When you think about what we do ultimately is we solve problems, we solve business problems. And that requires students to be well equipped, to be great critical thinkers, to think about creative solutions. And, that's hard to teach, but I think we can teach them to be analytical in their thinking, which can help them become better critical thinkers. One of the great things that the firms always tell us when they come to Gonzaga and recruit is that our students can communicate better and are better critical thinkers than almost anywhere else that they recruit. And again, I have to give the core at Gonzaga and the Jesuit philosophy great credit for that. I mean, I think we do a wonderful job of imparting accounting knowledge, but they drive us a lot on the other side of the street when we talk about things like development of analytical skills and problem solving skills. So I think that's a critical piece. And lastly, I think we have to continue to encourage students to be lifelong learners. The pace of change is just increasing. And just like in my career, had to learn how to use, Excel and, all of the technology today that exists that make it possible for me to do my job. Again, when you think about the pace of change and where we're going to be in 25 years, students need to be prepared to enter into a career where they're learning constantly and they're adaptable and they're flexible and able to take what they know and to build on it and to develop those critical new skills that are going to be so important in their life.
So when Gary Weber comes back to Gonzaga to visit in 2040, will you recognize the accounting curriculum?
I'll recognize the accounting curriculum because at some level we have to impart sort of that technical baseline of tax knowledge and audit knowledge and financial accounting knowledge for sure. But I think we're going to also have to be doing it probably with a greater integration of technology. I think the two are going to get married closer and closer. So, I'll recognize the technical content that is being, I'll recognize some of the technical content that's being passed on to students. But I think, the marriage of technology with it is going to be unlike anything I've seen. And I think, the challenge that presents to us as faculty is that students, as they're leaving Gonzaga and entering, the highest levels of our profession, you think about, public accounting firms, the Big Four, and the other regional firms, the other international firms that come to Gonzaga and recruit. What the technology is doing is it's driving the entering students in the profession to do higher level work. So rather than having our students work on very laborious Excel spreadsheets and doing very manual tasks, our students are going to be asked to do more reviewing and higher level problem solving. And the challenge for us as faculty is to get them ready for that, right? I mean, instead of, I think about in my field, when I entered the profession and even now as students enter the profession, they still do a lot of data entry as they do compliance tax return preparation work. And a lot of that now is going to be driven by technology so that it's going to be kind of hands off. We won't have to do that kind of work. So what does that mean for a new entering professional? They're going to be reviewing what the computer is already providing to them. So we need to think less about having them do the manual work of preparation and the more analytical and thought-provoking work of doing review. And does this make sense? Does the product that we got out of the computer make sense, and is it consistent with the tax law? And that requires, us as faculty to push students to do more, to think at a higher level, and to be prepared for that when they leave Gonzaga. So I think that's also going to be a large part of what faculty are going to continue to be asked to do, is take their students just to a higher level.
Cool. So, and I'll remind everybody, we're going to have, you can enter questions via the chat function. Because this is my last one for Gary. Building on that then, and whether they're accounting students or not, advice for today's college students.
So consistent with my theme, I think be prepared for and do everything you can in the area of technology. I used to encourage students to, if they were going to complete the accounting degree in 4 years, the 150 credits to be ready for the CPA exam. I used to tell them, finance and accounting, just do something that relates closely to accounting, and I still think that's true, or improves a skill set that'll be important in accounting. Definitely still true. I think the best kind of marriage to accounting now is technology, so MIS, computer science, something that will improve your overall ability to work in what I think is a new world of accounting, and you'll be pressed to continue to build new technical skills. A great example of that is just what we've been through, right, with COVID, is the rapid change that we've had to adapt as a faculty to learning new technologies and implementing them on kind of a moment's notice is similar to what I think students have to think about for their future, and how quickly they had to learn Zoom and other technologies that faculty were using. So I think that's important. I would also tell students that I think good technical skills get you in the door, and for several years probably create your initial reputation in terms of performance if you're good technically. But long term, it's about being able to relate to people. It's your ability to lead. It's your ability to solve problems. It's things outside of accounting. So don't ignore that side of things. Take courses that will improve your writing ability, your ability to argue a point. If you're trying to take a position on a particular topic, any kind of a communication class that asks you to speak publicly, that's just has proven critical in my career. And so I think all of those skills that we think about, as I reflect on my career and I think about people who have been successful and people who have been mentors and who I admire, they have, yes, these rich technical skills, and they know their area, whether it's economics, accounting, finance, whatever. But they also are great communicators and great leaders, and they're able to find ways to push themselves and the people they work with forward in certain ways. And I think that the start of that thought process starts now. So take courses, not just to meet the 150-hour requirement, but that build skill sets that are a little broader than maybe we typically think about. Because I'm convinced that after about 3 to 5 years of your career, it's about all the other things that you can do in terms of relating to people and being able to diffuse difficult situations and to relate to people. That's ultimately where your greatest successes are going to be.
And that really ties in nicely with the question that Molly posted to the chat on what other business courses would you recommend for a student who wants to have a successful business career. Of course, all business courses are valuable, she writes, but what would you pair well with upward mobility and job satisfaction? So technology, computer science, communication, interpersonal skills.
You bet. The conflict resolution things, I think that's just incredibly important. So yeah, skill. As an accountant, one of the things that I found is that you get involved in so many different parts of a business. So in my real estate career, we weren't so big that we could have specialists in all these different areas. So I had to know business law. I had to understand contracts. I had to be able to review them. I had to be an HR person. I had to, at least understand enough HR law up to a point where I could call, a specialist, an attorney, whatever. But I had to know enough HR in order to just be able to day to day ensure that we weren't going off the tracks. So yeah, I think there's there's a broad skill set here of technical skills, but I think of soft skills, but take things that interest you. Take things that you're not just taking to check the box, but you're taking them because you have some passion around them. That's how I actually almost had a minor in computer science because I took one course and found I had a lot of passion for it, and I just kept going. I took every elective that I could think of in computer science just for fun. And again, I know that's strange, but it was really fun for me. So take things that you have an interest in, you have some passion around that, just make you a more well-rounded person. I think that's all. You're going to do a lot better and you're going to remember a lot more about it.
Okay. And then we have a question from Matthew. Your favorite Gonzaga basketball memory? and he mentions thank you to you, by the way.
Yeah. Thank you, Matthew. You and I exchanged emails with Matthew earlier in the a week and last week, and one of my favorite memories from class actually involves Matt. So, gosh, my favorite Gonzaga basketball memory. He knows me well. Gosh, it would probably be, so my wife is Polish, and was one of the interpreters for the coaches and the parents and for Przemek Karnowski when he was being recruited. And so, over time, obviously, we got to know Przemek, and we were close to him. We were, because his parents were so distant and my wife spoke Polish, it was kind of a natural connection. And so I have to tell you, probably we were at the WCC tournament in 2017, and seeing Gonzaga win the WCC tournament, we knew that they were obviously going to be seated really high because they had only lost one game that year. And seeing the happiness that he was experiencing, the year before was when he was out all year because he had back surgery, didn't know if he'd ever play again, and had lost, 40, 50 pounds, gosh, when he was sick. And so seeing his happiness and really kind of experiencing that with him is probably my favorite memory. Still sends chills up my spine, actually, honestly, just being there and seeing his happiness and knowing that he played at a high level again after everything he had been through. So lots of great memories, though. I had Matt Santangelo in class, and so having him be a student during part of the time when we were making the initial run, which everybody thought was just crazy. It was a one-time thing. It was really fun. That was a really enjoyable time because it was so new and special. So for me, when I came to Gonzaga, my only disappointment was there was no football team, and I'm a huge sports fan. So no football team, and so then the basketball team became so great, and I haven't been disappointed. It's been awesome. It's an amazing 19 years, 21 years run.
Yeah. And Molly, bringing us back on task. Last question. For the non-accounting student, what are the most important accounting skills to have?
Yeah, well, really good question. I like that question. So I teach an MBA class that's a prereq class, and it's for students entering our MBA program who don't ever intend to be accountants, and but they need that initial sort of understanding of accounting. And I think what I try to do there, which is consistent with what I would try to do for any student who's just taking some accounting to understand it in the context of business, is you have to understand financial statements. You have to understand what they tell you and what they don't tell you. So there's just some key concepts there, kind of big picture about the ability, the being able to interpret what those statements, because if you're an entrepreneur, if you're working for a corporation and they're experiencing some financial challenges, like so many companies are doing today, just understanding enough about the financial statements and the lingo to make your way through in a big picture way. I think one of the things we struggle with as an accounting faculty is that, we teach accounting at the early levels as bookkeeping. There's a lot of bookkeeping involved. And we try to tell students all the time, that's not accounting. We just have to give you this baseline in order to get you to the accounting. And, sometimes the accounting gets lost in that bookkeeping stuff. So I think, being able to look at a set of financial statements and understand net income, cash flows, what the balance sheet's trying to tell you, that's really it. If you get that, you're going to be fine. And you don't have to remember debits and credits and all the other stuff, that sometimes gets really into the weeds in terms of the accounting processes. But, if you choose a way to keep track of your inventory, what does that mean for earnings? Those bigger picture concepts, I think, are what a non-business student really needs to know and understand. And then, when you get into managerial accounting, just being able to do budgeting and, again, understand cash flows. I'm a big cash flow guy. Real estate, when you work in real estate, you never have enough cash. So you spend a lot of time managing your cash flow. And so I try to impart that to my students, is that companies don't go bankrupt because they don't have net income. They go bankrupt because they don't have cash.
Well, I think that's a great answer to our last question. I want to thank you for taking the time today, Gary, and of course for all your great work over the years here at Gonzaga. And in a somewhat serious but also sarcastic way, I hope you enjoy your time off this summer. It's been a lot of fun today, and I'm glad that you could make it. So thank you.
Thank you, Ken. I really appreciate the opportunity, and thank everybody for being here. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, everybody. Be safe out there.